Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moody Gooners podcast. My name is Jason, and with me, as always, is Paul. And today we're going to be sort of dissecting. There's quite a lot to dissect. Everything that happened in yesterday's game, where Arsenal drew 2-2 with Fulham. Lots to go over. Lots of controversial things as well to get into. First of all, a little bit of housekeeping. If you do like the video, please remember to like and subscribe, get some comments into us. We'll always be happy to sort of get back to you. A little bit about us. So we're a sort of, if you like, unofficial Arsenal podcast. And we have a little bit of a leaning on sort of mental health. We'd like to raise awareness for this. And so every week, Paul and I will be making some predictions, which are invariably wrong. And if they are wrong, then we donate money to Mind, which is the mental health charity of choice. So without further ado, let's get into it. Paul, how you doing after yesterday?
Yeah, not too bad. I think, the day after the game, I think in the heat of the moment, I was actually, the way I was carrying on around the house was not befitting of someone who just had a draw. Like you think we'd had a 3-0 defeat or something. So I was I just felt really frustrated. I mean, I think for me, it's in years gone by, you could have the odd dodgy result here and there, and you could go. But the main thing that's kind of sitting in my mind at the moment is just how I hate Man City. I hate what they stand for. I hate how they've come into being who they are. But at the end of the day, if you take away all of that stuff, they're going to go down as one of the best teams in the English top flight in history, because that level of consistency and the average points that they're getting each season means that a draw now is, it's 1 point difference anyway, but it almost can be. Draws are a lot more damaging, put it that way. Any drop points are a lot more damaging against this team. So I was fuming, to be honest, yesterday. I sort of watched the game, really not sort of feeling what I was seeing, and then obviously, typical with Arsenal, it's end emotions kind of bouncing all over the place, and by the end, we have been able to kind of come out on the right side of things for the most part when we have these kind of ding dong kind of games, but this one obviously didn't quite work for us. But yeah, I've had time to sleep on it. I'm a bit more kind of relaxed today, but yeah, it wasn't really kind of how champions kind of come together and kind of move the needle, in my view.
Yeah, I think there are some positives to take from it, but it did, for me, it sort of felt like we're still trying to find our feet with what we're trying to do. And the problem is that, and you've touched on it already, that Man City, they are a juggernaut. I mean, again, today they've won 2-1 away at Sheffield United, which, on paper, much like our game, should have been, they should have steamrolled Sheffield United. But and credit to Sheffield United, they looked like they were going to nick a draw at the end, but City, as champions sort of always do, they found a way to win. And and to kind of go back to your point where, I know it's only a draw and, it's not the end of the world, but we should be, you looked at that game on paper, Fulham at home, Fulham were missing their captain as well. He got sent off, didn't he? Tim Ream in the last game. And you think, they haven't really got much going forward. Mitrovic is gone. Jimenez has come in. You're thinking, I had it down. My prediction from last week was a 5-0. I was thinking 5-0. We're going to absolutely smash Fulham. And in theory, we should have. If you look at the sort of chances that we created over the game, there was ample opportunity to do that. But for whatever reason, which I'm sure we'll get into, it just didn't seem to transpire that way. And it just, we can't really be affording to drop points in these kind of games, because I think we've got harder challenges to come. And so I hear what you're saying there. So that's where I sort of, it's just, I'm quite frustrated at this and disappointed with, I guess, like most Arsenal fans, but I just, it just doesn't seem quite right. Not very fluid at the moment. That's all.
And to be honest, I also kind of think this was in the post a little bit as well, this kind of thing. I feel like I've not been super convinced by any of our kind of games so far. To be honest, I mean, I even felt, in the end, I guess pre-season's pre-season. But I'm unlike other Arsenal football fans generally, where I think pre-season nothing's decided in pre-season, but I think you do go into the new season, in a lot. Momentum's momentum at the end of the day, and I felt there was a few games in pre-season which were I started seeing I remember coming away from the Emirates Cup, for example, last year when we beat Sevilla, and I know it's the Emirates Cup, I know it's not. We walked away, we won 6-0, and I walked out that ground with this sort of Cheshire Cat grin on my face because I knew there was something bubbling up here. You just had that feeling. It looked connected. The system was perfect. The players were already just like, really kind of understood their roles and responsibilities within the team. So even though it was a pre-season game, I kind of went into the first game of the season thinking I felt very confident, put it this way, deep down, that we would at least start the season well. And we went on some kind of mad, obviously, I think we won the first 6 games or something crazy like that. But this season, I mean, we'll kind of get into this anyway. Maybe we should just get into it rather than say we're going to get into it. But
yeah,
I just feel Arteta's tried to almost break things back down to its bare bones again and rebuild a whole new sort of thing. Rather than, and I'm all for change, by the way. I'm not one of these fans go, oh no, keep this player out of sympathy if they're not doing it, because I'm all for kind of making changes, making hard decisions to kind of, I love the way Alex Ferguson, for example, used to sell players when they were still delivering. People used to, but then a year or so later they were on the scrap heap. And so I'm all for kind of like trying to get ahead of the game and always be trying to be pushing things forward and growing the systems, and and the idea behind having some unpredictability is a great one. But I feel with Arteta that he's tried to do too many new things rather than, like, for the most part last season, the system worked an absolute treat. So why not try and iterate on that? And the problem is, by trying to accommodate Havertz, you're then having to kind of then take you're then having to take Partey out of the midfield to accommodate Havertz, and then you put him in the back. You then have to take shuffle Ben White into the middle, then Gabriel's out of the team. So for me, it's like a bit of a domino.
Exactly the stuff I've written down.
Not working.
Exactly. I think, in a nutshell, and whether this is Arteta or whether it's the club or Ed, I think we've given ourselves a £65 million headache because we're trying to shoehorn Kai Havertz into the team. Now, this is not a slight on Kai Havertz, because I do think there's a good player there. I don't think first thing to say is I don't think he's earned the right yet to be in the starting 11. I think every player has to fight to be in the starting 11, regardless of your price tag, and I don't think he's done that. And I think they've given themselves this headache where they feel obliged and they have to put him in the starting lineup. And as you said, this is having a knock-on effect, a domino effect on every other area. Going back to what you just said, last season was built on partnerships. You looked all over the pitch. You've mentioned this before. Ben White and Saka down the right. It was beautiful the way that they were combining together. It was wonderful. Gabriel and Saliba in the middle. Partey and Xhaka in the midfield as well, and I know obviously Xhaka's not there now, but you'd think that it would be Partey and Rice now in the midfield. And what that allowed then was, I mean, this is what I'm seeing, is that it allowed Ødegaard that ability, that license to sort of drift and go into these pockets of spaces and come deep, to collect the ball. But now I'm finding, over the 3 games that we've watched now this season, I'm finding that Ødegaard is having to do a lot more sort of legwork to accommodate Havertz, and so Ødegaard is less effective, I think. I know, obviously, we'll go into the game that from yesterday, and I know Ødegaard had quite a few chances and he was on the ball, but I think he's having to work a lot harder now because he's got a similar player alongside him. Whereas last season you had Xhaka and Partey, who were that, if you like, the muscle in the midfield to sort of do the legwork. And so I think they've created this headache for themselves. And, I'm all for change. But last season, there were a lot of things that were right. And I'm a big fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There were a lot of those. Where we suffered last season was we didn't have the numbers. And we suffered a few injuries that caused us big problems. We've got Saliba back. I don't know what's going on with Gabriel. There's rumours of Saudi. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Again, Kivior started yesterday. Maybe, I don't know. It just seems a bit odd. But why isn't he in the team? Why isn't Partey in the centre of midfield? And Kai Havertz then has to work to get in the starting 11. He's caused more problems, I think, than he probably needed to, because there were a lot of things that were working last season. And so I don't know where he's going with this and how long he's going to persist with this as well.
I think that's the key thing for me, that how long is he going to persist? Because I think if he's really, really laser focused on this, there's an argument I can almost see for him just carrying on and maybe having a few sticky results along the way. But the problem with managers' roles are they need to win now, And the worry I've got with people like Havertz is he was signed quite early in the window, so he's had like people. I heard on another podcast yesterday, people saying, Havertz is only his third game, but he's been with the squad since before the US tour.
Yeah,
and it's just not happening at the moment. But I guess Arteta's got to balance his need for winning here and now, with we're trying to sort of stick to his principles, and I think last season we were too predictable. Like when it wasn't working, we didn't really have a sort of system we could switch to that would kind of maybe make the tactics, the setup from the opposition redundant in a way. There was no surprise factor with Arsenal. Like the 11 picked itself, and I don't think that's a good thing necessarily all the time either. But I think too many things have changed for me.
Yeah, it's too much change too quickly. I could see what he was trying to do in the Forest game with Timber as well, and it was working to some extent, but maybe that was the opposition as well. Obviously, what happened yesterday where we conceded that goal straight away, it just felt like we were chasing and chasing and chasing, and we couldn't get ahead of ourselves.
And our defensive record at home is absolutely abysmal. Yeah. I mean, we haven't kept a clean sheet for, I think it's like 13, 14, 15 games. Well, and, I think we concede, there's an average of like 2 goals conceded. I think it's like 4 goals average per game at the Emirates, and that we're conceding as well in that. So
we look really shaky yesterday. Really, I mean, not just in defence, but everywhere. We look really nervy. I mean, let's get into it. Let's get into the game. I mean, it was awful start to the game. I mean, of all people as well, Saka, probably our best player, giving the ball away. Yeah. And do you remember the Forest game? Do you remember that chance that Forest had early on in the game where it was a sort of went through, and then Brennan Johnson went through?
Yeah, and he scooped it over the bar.
And he hit it over. This is the same sort of thing. It just really sort of sloppy, slow.
Yeah.
Just sort of, there was no sort of meaning to it. And then all of a sudden you're like on the back foot, and it's ridiculous. And, I got a question for you. What about Ramsdale's positioning here? Do you think he was at fault with where he was, or do you think it was just?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the first thing to say, if I walk it back a little bit from there, is that Bukayo Saka, he didn't have a right back. I don't know where Partey was in that kind of particular moment, but he certainly wasn't at right back. I don't know if he'd kind of gone into the midfield, because Saka would have had a much easier pass to play, just to roll it back to his fullback and then start the build up again. So I don't know who was where, but there was certainly no one for Saka to pass to. And it was obviously massively undercooked, abysmal pass, but he didn't have any options really. But I actually do blame. Like when I watched the replay, Ramsdale doesn't know whether to stick or twist. He kind of he starts to come, and then he sort of like stops and runs back, and then he's almost looking behind him to go, where's the middle of my goal? Because he sort of starts one side and then he moves to the other, and he's just not set. I mean, it was a very fortuitous effort by Pereira. I think he's aiming for the other corner rather than to
try to loop him, but he's actually done exactly what he probably should have done, which is sort of get that inside post area, which I mean, he got lucky with the finish. I do think there's an argument to be said that Ramsdale his positioning is questionable in that, but just awful slow, sluggish start. Do you know, I noticed as well from the kickoff. The moment we kicked off, it was I don't want to sound horrible here, but we looked like we were playing schoolboy football because we kicked off and then all of our players, they rushed the Fulham goal. I was like, whoa. What about sort of keeping in your position? You're not playing like 11-year-old football here. You're all running up to try and get the ball to get it in the back of the net. And they were just, you've got to keep your positions. There just didn't seem to be any sort of discipline there with that. And then lo and behold, 30 seconds later, we're down. And it just seemed a bit.
And the problem as well is it just knocks the stuffing out of the atmosphere, the whole. Yeah. That North London forever, when it blares out before the game, it kind of just gets the vibe, and suddenly it's almost like they've put a pin in that and just popped.
Yeah, the whole game takes on a different complexion at that point. Yeah, absolutely.
But then, in fairness, we did sort of, Fulham kind of sat off very deep, but we then kind of got on the ball and started playing and playing some more and
yeah,
the horseshoe of frustration. Again, I go back to what I said in the last pod, where I just think the intensity and the tempo is not there. It's all very pedestrian. We're losing 1-0, and there's no. We need to kind of get back in the game, but we're sort of rolling the ball. But then what's really worrying about this Arsenal team is that when we did pick up the tempo and we did start to kind of ramp things up around the middle of the first half, we then got caught a number of times in transition.
Yeah.
Fulham, I'm thinking Harry Wilson, I think, dragged a shot wide. You had the Raul Jimenez, kind of acrobatics that sort of that could have easily nestled in the far corner. And to be fair, it would have been, you'd have to give a lot of credit to the striker there. But we were just so vulnerable, and I just think as well, not having like that sort of two in the base of the midfield, where when you're on top of the game and you can say to one of them, right, you go. Declan Rice can be the one that can carry the ball and get box to box, and maybe when things are a little bit tight, maybe the two of them have a bit of a conversation, then they can both sit. And I guarantee you, if we had two players in there, they're not going to be breaking anywhere near as easily for our midfield. Yeah. And that was really alarming for me. We were sort of really slow, really ponderous, and then when we did try and ramp it up, Fulham had like a 10-minute spell in that middle of that first half where I was almost expecting them just to sucker punch us and go 2-0 up at half time. To be honest,
it felt like that Southampton game from last year, didn't it? It had shades of that, where they had that early goal and then all of a sudden they were 2-0 up, and we were like, oh my god, it's completely like just sucked the life out of us, and we did look very vulnerable, although we were creating lots of chances. As you say, Fulham, they carved out quite a few chances. That Jimenez one, it was a fantastic effort, sort of half scissor kick or bicycle. It was wonderful, great effort. But and again, that came from sort of poor passing, trying to be cute with the passing. I think Trossard it was, and then Ben White didn't clear it from. It just wasn't working, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. The fact that Partey is not sat there anchoring that midfield, and then you've got Rice alongside him that can drop deep. It's leaving space. It's opening things up. And, if you've got Havertz and Ødegaard in the midfield as well, naturally they're going to be more forward. They're not going to be sitting. And so you haven't got anybody in the midfield then, because I don't think Partey's not a right back. We know that for sure. I don't think he quite necessarily has the nous about him to sort of know what his position should be. If he's being tasked with playing right back, and then Mikel's saying, right, but when we have the ball, push into midfield, he's getting caught between two, and I think I don't think that's working. I don't think he doesn't have the same ability that Zinchenko does on the other side. So
he's an interesting player.
Carry on.
Sorry, go on. There you go.
I can say why we're trying to persist with it. I don't understand. It's just not working. So. Yeah, it's frustrating. What were you going to say?
I was going to say at Palace, actually, I kind of looked at Partey, particularly in the second half, and thought, you're actually playing quite well as a right back in this game. Like, you're defending quite well. You're getting tight to your man. You're not allowing anyone to kind of turn you and carry the ball past you and things like that. But in this game, again, no, this is, and I kind of think to myself, if you want Partey inverting in the middle, just bloody keep him in the bloody middle then. Play someone else. Play someone like Ben White can carry the Ben White's one of our most underrated players. Like he can,
Yeah,
bona fide a decent right back, bona fide a decent centre half. You know,
I actually think he's better now at right back rather than centre back.
yeah, I do. And in fact, I don't know if you noticed in the first half yesterday, sort of there was like a mad little spell where the players just sort of like went. It was probably actually just around or just after this time when Fulham had their chances. But I noticed Ben White just kind of went out into the right wing for about 5 minutes and started doing Ben White things from last season, sort of not,
Yeah, I noticed this.
interchanging with Saka
Yeah,
and Odegaard. And I thought,
diagonal
wow,
balls.
you're
Yeah,
meant to be playing centre half, and you've. I don't know if that was Arteta telling or whether he's just getting frustrated with the system himself and going, look, no one's. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in
yeah,
Ben White's mind to kind of know if Arteta's said, look, because I guarantee you, Ben White's done that of his own volition, because there's no
yeah.
way Arteta wants one of the centre halves to be galloping up the right wing. But I noticed he had a little 5 minute spell in that first half where he started playing right back, and then Partey was in the bloody middle of midfield as well, and it was just like, Jesus Christ, like we are open here. It's no surprise we're conceding, but it was quite nice and refreshing to see Ben White overlapping again and connecting up with Odegaard and Saka on that in that right hand channel.
But last year it worked so well, so it's just like, why can't we just sort of revert back? And I genuinely do feel if we took Havertz out of the starting lineup and we had the Partey, Rice, Odegaard midfield, it would fix a lot of things. I think it would, and I think then you've got Havertz, albeit a luxury player, he has to earn the right to play, and whether he then becomes the competition for Saka out wide. Havertz, that's where where he started playing when he came through the ranks at Leverkusen. So I don't know. I just think they've given themselves a big headache with that signing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with it.
But there's nothing to say that Havertz can't be a player that, like you say, starts on the wing or comes. I mean, he's not great as a false nine, but maybe you bring him off the bench or something. But at the end of the day, Arteta's a strange one. Like sometimes he's super ruthless with players, and sometimes he's super generous and kind of gives them a lot of breathing room. I mean, you saw. I know we're going back in time a bit here, but we all wanted Trossard to play. But why the hell was Eddie Nketiah dropped? The guy scored against Forest, set up the penalty against Palace, scored again in this game, and he drops him for this game. It's just. And I think Martinelli's been quite poor this season so far. Like he's all nice, kind of running and dribbling, but he's actually. I was thinking during the game as well. He's not that kind of lethal in front of goal. Like his actual final end product is not. Like he's good at setting up chances almost more than he's scoring sometimes. But because when you watch him on the training videos before the game on the Arsenal YouTube, he's literally firing the ball into the top corner. Left, right, and centre. But when he, I felt like he was getting into some good positions, but he sort of almost shrinks into himself when he gets the sight of the goal in front of him. And so where I'm going with this is that I personally wouldn't have minded seeing Trossard play on that in the Martinelli position and on that left hand side and get Eddie up front, because I cannot believe Arteta put Nketiah on the bench. Nketiah's style, he's not like an impact player off the bench. He's the kind of player, if you start him and give him games, he gets a feel for it. He's more of a kind of rhythm player. He'll get you goals. Whereas someone like a Jesus, for example, he's not that you'd ever have him on the bench fully fit, but he's the kind of player that could potentially come off the bench and be an impact because he's more explosive. But Nketiah, for me, I think if he's fit at the moment and the way he started off the season, he must have been absolutely miffed to be on the bench yesterday. I can't believe he was on the bench.
I was going to ask you, do you think because obviously we know Trossard started in that sort of false nine position, and I think maybe him and Havertz were switching around and stuff, but do you think we missed that sort of focal point of like having that sort of striker that Eddie does, that sort of role that he plays, and he is a forward, there's no sort of false nine about him? Do you think we missed that yesterday?
Well, I just see it as very simple. I just cannot believe he was on the bench. I just think he's, at the end of the day, he's one of our more informed players, so he has to play.
Do you think
That's
do you
it.
think do you think the misses against Palace have played any part with Arteta in thinking to drop him? Because you play Fulham at home, you want goals. You're thinking, right, okay, we need to put the ball in the back of the net. We should be winning this game on paper. Obviously, it's not panned out that way. Do you think that Arteta's obviously thought, right, okay, he's missed a couple of golden opportunities at Palace. We've managed to just get by with that 1-0 win away. Maybe it's time I freshen it up a little bit. Do you think that's gone through Arteta's mind somewhat?
But I'd like to personally. I'd like to think he. I actually think Nketiah was one of our better players at Selhurst Park. To be honest, I think he had. I think he was alert, lively. He used his body well, his physicality. He's bright and sharp. I know the finishing was crap in those two chances that he had, but the movement, how he got himself into the position for that first chance was good. And then he's hardly ever offside in Nketiah as well. He's always right on the fine margins, and I'm starting to actually like Nketiah a bit more than I had done previously. And I just. Yeah, I know he missed those two chances, but I think his all-round game at Selhurst Park was good, to be honest. And it was his sharp thinking, that his sharp mind that won us that penalty that got us the 3 points.
Yeah.
I'd hope Arteta wouldn't just look at those. I don't think he would just look at those two misses and go, right, you're out, because I think he did so much, and he's clearly shown before that he's backed Nketiah. So I'd like to think he's looking at his all-round performance.
Do you think he starts the next game against United? He's got to, hasn't he, really?
I think he does, yeah. I mean, Jesus obviously was on the bench and he came on and he put himself around a bit, but he looked very much like a guy who hadn't had any football for a month. So yeah, I mean, it's great to see him back. It obviously wasn't a major procedure that he had on his knee, but I think at the end of the day, he's still probably a little bit ring rusty for a game of this kind of magnitude against Man United. I think Nketiah shouldn't have been dropped onto the bench yesterday, and I think he should start. But don't get me wrong. I think the minute Jesus gets some fitness and some match fitness and some rhythm back, I think I'd like to see him back in the team. But at the end of the day, Nketiah scored against Man United, last minute winner in the last corresponding fixture last year. If he puts himself out and about again in this game and does the business, then I want to see him. I want to see him starting. At the end of the day, I don't care who's playing, as long as we're winning and playing well. Playing well where we can, but as long as the results are coming, I don't think Nketiah had any reason to be dropped yesterday, in my view. Yeah. What was your take on that? I mean, good to see Trossard in, but
I wanted to. I mean, I was a little bit critical of Nketiah on our last pod. I think his finishing is a bit erratic sometimes, but I do think he needs to be shown a bit of confidence. And I think, the fact that he came on at halftime yesterday, and then he seemed really lively and he caused a lot of problems. And if I compare the two halves, it was definitely something that we were missing, was that player to sort of hustle and bustle around. And Havertz, I mean, I think he was completely ineffectual. I mean, he missed a golden opportunity in the first half as well, from a cross from Saka, which I don't know how he didn't score. I mean, they were saying that Saka missed a header as well, which, I mean, this is the annoying thing. I'm going off topic slightly here, but this is the annoying thing, is that we did create a lot of chances yesterday, and we could be sat here now talking about a 5-0 win. But it just, I think on the balance of the way we played and the way we put ourselves out there, we've only got ourselves to blame for it being 2-2. So yeah, just going back to Eddie. Yeah, I think he was unlucky to be dropped. I think I possibly was a bit critical of him, but I do think we needed him yesterday more than we had, because the other guys that were sort of playing that role, Havertz and Trossard, they weren't really doing it. I thought Trossard looked really kind of rusty. He was giving the ball away quite a bit. I don't know, he gave a couple of nice crosses, but generally, I mean, the whole team, I mean, I don't want to single Trossard out, because the whole team were like, even Saliba was giving the ball away, Saka as well. They were all at it. They all seemed very nervy and edgy, and they weren't sure of themselves.
They probably
So
don't.
yeah,
Do you know what? They probably don't fancy the system as well. They probably. It's
yeah,
almost they're playing like they're unsure. Not that they're unsure of what the manager's asking to do. They're playing a bit like they don't believe that it's the right thing to do. That's kind of almost like the body language. There's like a nervousness. I guess fear of change and what have you. But they're playing like they're not totally convinced by the system. That's the kind of what I. That's kind of what I think. And going back to your point about kind of the finishing, I felt like we kind of our approach play, despite coming up against a really low block. I think some of our approach play and little intricate passes we were finding was actually not that bad. But every time we got into a shooting position, we'd either take an extra touch, or when we did release a shot, we were shooting straight at Leno. Like
God,
we
so many, didn't
we
he?
we weren't working Leno enough. Like we were working him in terms of like the ball was coming right towards him and he had to stop it, and we worked him in that respect, but we didn't really put the ball in the corner that the Leno would have had to have stretched to make a save. You know what I mean? I saw so many shots that were hit straight at the goalkeeper.
Yeah, Odegaard had several,
game.
and
Yeah, there was a couple in the first half as well. Just like it weren't really worked. Like the quality of the shooting was appalling. I felt because there was a few times where Declan Rice would slip a little kind of cute ball into the box from. You play the ball in a tight area, and suddenly we were kind of had a half a look at goal, and then the shot that came off was awful. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it sucks. It's awful watching. So yeah, second half, and Nketiah comes on for Trossard. Very much the same sort of pace of the first half, very frenetic. And this is one of the things I found really interesting, and I don't understand. And we did it against Palace. We were chasing the game, and we were all over Fulham, and this is the same thing for Palace as well. Once we were chasing the goal, and we got the goal. And once we got the goals here against Fulham, we just sat off them. It was just, I don't understand. It's like the game lasts for 90 minutes. It's just, I don't understand it. We did it against Palace, and we talked about it. Last time we ended up with like all of our defenders on the pitch. It's like, why aren't we capable of still playing? Why do we? Man City, the first game of the season, 3-0, bosh. They don't settle at 2-0. They don't let the team. They don't leave the door open. We did it with Forest, 2-0 up. Oh, we'll let Forest score a goal. I mean, not let them, but it just killed the game off.
Yeah, lack of ruthlessness, really, isn't it? About the way, and we just seem to be really bad at home for some reason. I mean, maybe teams find it easy to set up against us because they just think, well, we're just gonna. They're such a good team. We'll just defend deep and have an out ball, and counter them or something like that. Because where we did look weak was in the counter attack in the first half, especially. But whereas obviously when we're away from home, generally we're going to have a bit more space. But I just think we need to kind of get the spine of our team sorted again. 2 solid centre halves, 2 solid central midfielders, and then we play from there. I think having that 4 in the middle will just make us a lot. Declan Rice with his recoveries, Partey kind of in a position where you can kind of verticalize the game.
Yeah,
that sounds a bit wanky, but verticalize, with his passing through the lines and things like that. Just what I want to see. I don't think I'm sick of the experiment at the back. I need it to stop.
What do you think's going on with Gabriel? I mean, I heard in one of the press conferences, Arteta said, well, he knows the reason he's not playing. It's like some sort of mystery that only they know, and it's like, what's going on there? It seems.
It's the Saudi links to me. It's got to be. I mean, I think it's definitely got to be because if you're Gabriel right now, you're probably sitting there, and I know we covered this off a few days back, but you're probably sitting there now going, I love Arsenal, I want to stay, but I'm being offered 600 grand a week or whatever to play for Al Ittihad or something like that. It's gonna. I'd be surprised if his head was 100% in the right. I guarantee you that if he doesn't move, and the Saudi transfer deadline closes, I guarantee he'll be back in the team. I guarantee you. I just think that there's that uncertainty around. I don't think he wants to necessarily leave Arsenal, but let's be honest. Like, there's a lot of players. We're seeing a lot of players now that are just seeing this life-changing money. So I just reckon that his head's not. It's not 110%
You think it's a
where it needs to
mentality
be.
thing? Yeah? You think his
Yeah,
head's not?
I just don't. I think he's trying hard in training and working hard. Great guy. Must be a great guy around the training ground, what have you. But I just get the feeling that he's not 100. Arteta's a very intense guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I just don't think he's 110% able. I think he wants to, but I don't think he's able to 110% have his head completely in the game at the moment to be able to start. And it's annoying, because Arsenal can say, "Oh, he's not for sale, he's not for sale." But at the end of the day, if they offer ridiculous money for him, he is for sale. And if they're going to pay him like 5 or 6 times what he's being paid at the moment, he's going to want to take that money. It's just, this. I think it's going to be a lot of disruption for Salah. There's talk about him at the moment, maybe, going from not wanting to move to maybe wanting to move now and things like that. So Liverpool probably going to have a little bit of this going on in their camp as well. So I just think it's but in my view, then why not play the system like last season and play Kivior as a left-sided centre half? He doesn't really have the pace to go, up and down the flanks at left back. He's not too bad in the middle. He played quite a few games for Spezia, but if anyone's going to invert, I probably would rather it be someone like Kivior than Partey, to be honest. But at the very least, if you're going to play the system from last season, you could just play Kivior in the left side as centre half, and just say to Gabriel, like, we don't want you to go, but sort yourself out, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Once the Saudi transfer deadline passes.
Yeah, exactly. So bring it back to the game then. The subs, I think the subs, I think, had a huge impact on this game, as well, as we know. And the one guy that I want to sort of single out is Fabio Vieira. Wow. Where have you been, Fabio?
Yeah.
Where have you been all my life?
Yeah. Welcome to Arsenal fans.
Exactly. I saw you. I remember seeing you last season, Fabio, at Brentford, and that was it, I think. So yeah. Wow, he really came on and made such a difference. I mean, the penalty was a stonewall penalty. No questions asked. I can't remember the last time I saw a penalty like that. There was no questions asked. Everything seems like this. Oh, is it? Oh, half 6 of this. Half does the other. It's like that was. No doubt, stonewall penalty. And Saka tucked it away under quite a bit of pressure. Do you see the referee though? He was like telling Saka the ball's not on the spot. And it was like, it's like, well, yes, it is. The ball,
as long as some of the ball's on the spot,
it's
on the spot.
Exactly.
And then he needs all the help he can get, Saka, from the spot sometimes. So,
yeah.
And to be fair, it was a great penalty. I mean, he's always gone the other way. To his left, the goalkeeper's right, but he's gone for the other corner. It's a nice disguised. I'm happy for him, to be honest. It's a bit strange how we've gone from one penalty taker to another. That's a bit of an odd one, if you ask me. But no, it was a well struck penalty. And to go back to Vieira, I mean, it's almost like Vieira's kind of like almost had the life shook into him. It's like as if to say, like, this is your moment now. Like, there's no more. I think he always got that feeling. He's just sort of almost the last chance saloon, and he's actually just playing with like a right. He's actually showing. The thing I love about it is that whether you've got the quality or not, he's actually showing the mentality and the determination and some character and some personality, and that's what's really nice to see. Because he's a talented guy. He's technically very good. He's quick. He's nimble. He's got a lovely left foot. And he's got. But sometimes you think, do you back yourself to do it? And it was good to kind of see that. And I must admit, even in the Emirates Cup, again, I can't believe I'm talking about another Emirates Cup, 2.5 an hour. But I even felt when he played on the right hand side in that, and I felt he looked quite like a bit of an option there, to be honest. So I could see that he's trying to sort of come to the fore. And so it was great to see him playing with that kind of purpose and that thrust him and Nketiah kind of came onto the pitch, they had a point to prove, which they did. So it was great to see. A lot of people kind of like really praising Arteta, going, "Oh, what great subs he made," but I think the subs almost looked better because of how crap the team played before the subs were made as well. That's the other piece. Like, we were so bad that even we could have laced up our boots and gone out there and been, "Oh, a couple of great subs today," really put themselves around a bit.
I think those days are long gone, mate, for us. I must hold my hand up as well. I remember sending you a text during the game, like, why the fuck is Vieira coming on? Why not Emil Smith Rowe? And then, like 5-10 minutes later, I was like, oh, I stand corrected, because he really sort of, I was like, wow, where have you been? What a player! And 2 minutes after the penalty, he puts in a lovely, the cross was beautiful, lovely low cross, and a fabulous finish from Nketiah. A brilliant goal, but what I want to talk about is the slight controversy of the player being down, Fulham's player. Was it Bassi, I think it was? He was down, and then obviously Marco Silva was spitting feathers on the sideline, along with quite a few of his backroom staff. So
yeah. It's a tricky one, that, because by the letter of the law, we don't have to stop the game because it's not a head injury. And I've seen players before, they have, as we would have got nearer the goal, the injured player in question may have tried to get to his feet and try and get themselves in an area where they can maybe throw their body and block or something like that. It's probably not really in the spirit of the game. I don't think it would happen in things like cricket and rugby if there was an equivalent thing in cricket. I don't think there is, but in football it's not against the letter of the laws, to be honest. And I was getting so angry in the game. I remember at the time sort of looking at it and going, "Oh, come on, keep playing, Arsenal." When it went in, I was like, I was a bit more like, "Oh, fuck you."
But you know full well, if the tables were reversed, we'd be mental. We'd have gone absolute spag. What the, kick the ball out, you cheating. So
it's quite naive by Bassi though, because if he'd gone down and just gone like that and held his head a little bit, the game would have been stopped. So
I think genuinely, I looked at the replays and I think he's like, I don't know whether he hurt he's done I don't know what he's done, but he really hurt his shoulder the way he landed awkwardly on it. So I genuinely think he was really hurt there at that point. So yeah, not really in the spirit of the game, and a bit fortuitous that we were playing against 10 men for that point, because I would have thought Bassi would have been the player trying to close down Nketiah or Vieira or something. But great finish. Very happy with that.
I think if you boiled Eddie Nketiah down into like an essence, like a fragrance, that's Eddie Nketiah in an essence, in a mist, a spraying mist, because it's just right on the money. He's come in, and it's a hard technique. The ball's kind of come over the defender. It's coming in at pace, being whipped in, and he's really stepped into it and opened his knee and his foot up and just guided it. That's lovely. To be fair, it's a finish of a guy who's been scoring and playing well, and he has been.
Yeah.
So brilliant stuff.
I think off the back of his second half cameo, he's got to be starting against United, especially if we need the goals against United, I think.
He's our sharpest striker.
Has to start.
He has to start. In fact, I would say, given how crap everyone else was, he's probably one of, if not our most nailed on players for this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. What annoyed me though after that is that we took the lead, and it goes back to what I said earlier. We stopped playing. We just thought, oh right, okay. All the effort that we've put in is now transpired as being in front. Therefore, we don't need to play anymore. So, therefore, we'll just sort of sit back and get rid of the ball again. And we invited Fulham onto us, and we got the red card. That happened. It was, again, he pulled him back. Second yellow, no questions asked. But
he had an eventful game, didn't he, Bassi, for his debut?
He did have a very eventful game, didn't he? Yeah. But I don't know what to say. It's just really, irritating that we didn't manage to hold on. We put so much effort in, and it was so frenetic, and there was so much. You said it in messages to me. There's just too much emotion involved, and we're not being so we're not being so. It's not. We're not being very pragmatic about it and just going about it and being very efficient with our play.
Mm. And actually, a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, but if you win these last minute games like we did against Bournemouth last season,
Yeah,
that's how that's how champions win. Some have to scrape through." And I do get that, but the problem with Arsenal is we make way too much of a habit of that. I mean, look at our first 3 games of the season. Playing well against Forest first half, conceded to be fair, it was a really good finish.
good goal.
But at the end of the day, we've not shut that game down in the way we should have. They've scored, and suddenly, the hypertension and the blood pressure is rising amongst the Arsenal fan base. And against Palace, I mean, you can argue the toss. I mean, should Tommy Asu have had that very, very slight tug of Jordan Ayew's shirt, having already been on a yellow? It's pretty naive, actually. I've come to. I mean, I know it was a terrible. The first yellow was never a yellow, but again, Tommy Asu's made a poor decision there. He's given Ayew something to kind of remonstrate with the ref about, and it's kind of clever shithousery by Ayew in a way. And then we've got another 20 minutes, 25 minutes of emotion, and our heart's pounding. Can we get over the bloody line? And then the same with this game. We shit the bed, concede early, and then we're on the roller coaster once again. And I'd give anything at the moment for a really nice, serene, controlled 2-0 victory. I'd give anything for that in a minute.
The first 3 games of the season have not been easy viewing. I've been on the edge of my seat, and on paper you go, okay, Forest at home, Palace away, Fulham at home. You go, okay, we can get a few goals in this. We might keep a couple of clean sheets maybe. But man, we've been put through the ringer already. We're only 3 games in. And it just, Man United up next, and credit to them, they were 2-0 down at home to Forest, and they managed to pull it back to 3-2. So confidence is going to be a bit high for them coming into the game against us. So we really need to sort of step it up a little bit and be a bit more sure of ourselves and just play the game that we know to play. We've got the quality there. So yeah.
Mind you, Man United a bit like us as well, though. I mean, they beat Wolves 1-0. Should have had a penalty for Wolves. Wolves were absolutely pissing all over them. So if I was a Man United fan watching that, I'd be heart out the chest. And then, to come back, you're 2-0 down, there's an emotion behind that. So maybe they're not too dissimilar from us this season. But I think we're obviously trying to. I mean, City had a bit more of a ding-dong game today, but their previous 2 games were just pretty regulation results for them. Yeah. And that's what I think we need to kind of get to that place where we're playing the whole 90 minutes as like a body of work. We're playing this way for the first 15 minutes to get to this place, and the next step is to go here and to kind of. I think we're not managing games well. We're not really. There's no sort of the strategy to get from point A to point B. It's all flying by the seat of the pants, and I think when the system's when the system's not great and the players look a bit unsure of it, it's really coming through in how they're playing. I've kind of become convinced of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What do you think of Fulham's equaliser then? I mean, it was just.
Oh. But I have to say though, I didn't like when they went down to 10 players. First of all, to concede against 10 men is absolutely unforgivable. But I didn't think that Fulham were really carving out. They weren't knocking on the door, but Arsenal did get complacent. At the end of the day, they've seen the 10 men and they got phew. They're down to 10 men now. The game's in the bag, and actually you still got to just keep your focus. I mean, we should now be massive favourites to go, but it's not a given. The Premier League is never a given. I didn't see Fulham really carving out lots of chances. But he just sort of walked onto it, Palhinha, and just sort of guided it far. It was all very pedestrian and very easy almost. There was no real hunger to kind of.
I think it was Saka.
Bodies on the line.
I think Saka was picking Palhinha up, and he stole a yard on him, and it just seemed a bit too easy for him to sort of like swing a leg at it, and it's sort of it was just crap defending. You shouldn't be allowed. You should, it was so annoying.
It was all very lackadaisical, wasn't it? It was all very just, very, very sort of easy for them. And then in the end, Adama Traore, we have to, as much as we give Ramsdale criticism for the first goal, he saved us. He's amazing at these kind of like game match-winning or match-preserving saves, and once again he's done the business. So
I mean, Traore, he could have gone down as well. The Saliba challenge on him, that could have been a penalty. It could have been a red card. If Traore wanted to, he could have just gone into that challenge a bit more, and he got a penalty. But credit to him, tried to stay on his feet and get the goal. And Ramsdale done us a solid there and bailed us out. But
what was your sort of feeling at the full time? And because if you look at the stats, they all sort of point towards Arsenal being the better side, at more shots on target, more possession, yada yada yada. But for me, I walked away from the game going, you know what, we didn't.
I think on the balance,
I sort of felt like we didn't deserve it. Like we were too volatile. We were not solid enough.
I agree. I agree. I think on the balance of play, I think Fulham probably deserved a draw. You got to think of the chances that they created as well, not just us. I think they were a bit naive in the way that we played and set up, and I don't think the system is working for us right now. I think Arteta's tactics are not quite on the money, and I think he needs to stop trying to overcomplicate things. There were a lot of good things to take away from last season, and I don't think you need to tear it all up and start again. I think there are, last season is the blueprint to move forward with. We were lacking some quality and depth in areas, and we added to that in the summer, and I just don't see why we're trying to reinvent the wheel here.
I totally agree. So one thing I also wanted to kind of mention is, did you read Arteta's see Arteta's press conference after the game?
I didn't. I gotta be honest, I didn't pick it up.
It was very, very deluded, I have to say. Like when he was asked about whether the game was a frustrating one, he was saying the game became more difficult. And I'm going to quote him. He said the reaction straight after the goal, for the first goal, the reaction straight after that, even in the first half, with the amount of situations and chances we created, we didn't give anything away. We controlled the game for full periods, but we didn't score a goal. And in the second half, we made some changes. But he's making it sound like we played Fulham off the park in the first half. They had. Yeah, I mean, yes, we controlled the game, amount of situations and chances we created, but yeah, that's true. But he said we didn't give anything away. Yes, we did.
What, like, we didn't give any goals away, or we didn't give any opportunities? Because we did give chances away, and our passing from the back. You only have to think of, there's the Trossard pass that led to a chance for him.
His words were, we didn't give anything away. So that to me suggests chances, shots, goals. We gave nothing away. We were. I'm really worried how he's not seen how open we were in the midfield, to the counter attack. That's
just him saying that for the press, for the outside world, and then inside he'll have a chat with the guys and say, look, and when they sit down, I guess tomorrow morning and evaluate the game, they'll go over and go, look, what's going on here? Why are we passing? Where are you passing to? You're not even looking where you're passing.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, he's probably. I'm sure.
I tend not to read
candid discussions
because the post match, conferences, they're full of emotion, and invariably managers will come out and defend their team. You look at like Sean Dyche coming out saying, well, it's quite obvious what we need. The players did well and all this. It's difficult to sort of read. You just sort of take it with a pinch of salt, I think, with what he says.
With Arteta, I've always found him to be, when I've watched him interview before, even when he's doing his press conferences, I always feel like he's a really honest guy. Like if it's something shit, he'll say. So I was actually quite surprised to hear him almost like just papering over a few cracks. I mean, it makes sense to kind of back your players and kind of things like that. But I've often been quite impressed with how, like, he never calls out individuals, but whenever we've had a bad game or something's not right, he's always like, I always found him quite refreshingly honest. Whereas this, it felt a bit like, I hope he's not getting blind to, what majority of the fan base is seeing at the moment with this system. Put it that way.
Do you think? Yeah. I mean, I think he's maybe being a bit defensive. He doesn't want to sort of take on those sort of issues. But I think behind closed doors, he can't be so blindly sort of delusional in what he's seeing. He must be seeing what we're all seeing. He hooked off Havertz at 55 minutes or so, So he must have seen that Havertz was being really ineffectual in the game. So I think there's some work to be done on the training ground this week. Big game coming up against Man United next weekend. So yeah. So yeah, a bit disappointed. Well, not a bit. I was absolutely disappointed. I was frustrated with Arteta's tactics, I think, more than anything else, because I thought it's not working, and you can see it's not working.
No.
You're sticking with it, and you're just being really obtuse with this, and it's like just.
But do you think though, like sticking with something for 3 games? Do you think? I mean, yeah, we're all bloody annoyed with this game and this system, but do you think it would maybe almost be worse if he tried the system for 1 game and then stopped it, or do you think by having like a 3 games worth of?
Unfortunately, I don't think he's got the. I don't think he's got the. If we weren't playing Man United at home, if we were playing, I don't know, Burnley away or Bournemouth away, I could see him sticking with it. But I don't think he's got the luxury to stick with it against Man United. Because as crap as Man United have been so far this season, and as toothless as they are, they do have quality in their team that can punish us. Fernandes had a great game at the weekend against Forest. Rashford got an assist as well. I think there's enough quality in that Man United team to do us damage, and I don't. Last season,
Rashford up against Thomas Partey, just please don't do that to me.
It's not going to work, is it? Rashford's going to have him. Rashford's going to have so much time on the ball because Partey's going to get caught between right back and coming into the midfield, and they're going to get the ball out to Rashford so quickly that Partey's not even going to have a chance to get himself back in position. I think they've got to bring Zinchenko back in because Zinchenko's more naturally adept at playing that sort of role. And they have to, if it's not Gabriel, bring Kivior in. I'd rather see Saliba partnered with somebody alongside him and then White on the right. Because it just works. It's a more solid foundation to move forward. I hear what you're saying where, like, does he stick or twist? It's only played 3 games, stick with it. These things take time. But we all know the kind of player that Kai Havertz is. And I'm digging him out a bit here. But he's not going to change in the way that he's playing. And so as a result of that, that means that we're trying to shoehorn other players into other positions. In my opinion, Havertz needs to be dropped. Partey goes into midfield and everything else sort of takes care of itself. It all sort of shuffles around. And then you play Eddie and Nketiah at top. Maybe there's a question mark over Martinelli or Trossard, although I think Trossard didn't do himself any favours. So I think it'll be Martinelli and then Saka on the right.
Who would you play at left back? Would you Zinchenko sort of he looks quite good actually. I thought when he came on he got in some good positions.
All the way once or twice.
His crosses weren't too bad, and I felt like he's quite sort of intelligent around the box with how he seems to sort of be able to find little angles with his interplay kind of around the corner of the box and sort of. I thought he had a decent game, to be honest. I thought he sort of added something fresh and
I like Zinchenko.
Penetrative, basically.
I like Zinchenko, but I want him to keep a lid on the emotion. He's such an emotional player, and I like him G'ing up the crowd a bit, but he seems to he's made a couple of errors in the past, and I think he gets a bit distracted, and I think I want him to keep a lid on it and be a bit more focused on football. So, I think he has to come back in. I mean, if he came on yesterday, so, I think he comes in. I think Zinchenko should come in. So, yeah. So let's bold predictions. I mean, I got it catastrophically wrong. There's no bones about it, man. I said 5-0, and man.
Yeah, we're not having a good season because I said 3-1 win with Nketiah having 2 goal involvements, which he had 1.
Yeah, but we didn't win though.
we didn't win. But I'm gonna back my man for the next game. He's my boy now. So I'm gonna say he's gonna score a goal. I'm not going to predict the result because I'm just too scared. I'm too scared. I'm going to say Eddie Nketiah.
I think
I'm not going to say goal involvement. I'm going to say to score.
I think you beat me to the punch there because I quite like that.
What are you going with then? Come on.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think we're going to keep a clean sheet.
Arsenal to concede 2 or more goals at home?
No. It's turning into like a William Hill thing.
Where's Ray Winston?
Yeah, exactly. I know he's Bet365, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other wagering companies are available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not advertising here. I'm gonna go with you, man. I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm gonna go Eddie goal. I gotta say, man, I think Eddie's gonna get a goal. Yeah, I'm not gonna go any bigger than that. I mean, aside from the bold predictions, do you think we'll get the win against United?
Oh God,
Tough one, isn't it?
I do. I think we seem to.
It'd be a tight game, though. I think
we seem to be better. We seem to have the Willow. What's the word? We seem to have like the hoodoo over them when it comes to playing up at the Emirates, and they tend to. But every time we play them, it's always like, well, they're crap now. This is crap United. Why, we don't. But at home, we seem to do pretty well against them in recent years. And the one thing I will say is that whenever we do come up against a team which is on a bit of a higher level than what than the average, we do tend to step up. Like, no matter how crap we've been in the last few years, when we play Spurs or someone at home, we always step up with an intensity. It's almost like the players know that, all right, we're gonna have to just do, which kind of annoys me in a way. Saying, well, why can't you just do it against Fulham? Why can't you just do it against Palace? But I feel that the players almost, if they played like that against Man United, will lose. I'm not saying we'll get thumped, but if we play like we did against Fulham, we will lose by more than probably 2 goals or more. So I'm backing Arsenal to kind of come with a more intense performance. I'm also quietly confident, like to your point earlier on, that we'll change the system to back to something. I mean, surely he's not going to play Thomas Partey. Like, Partey at right back as a theory, as an idea, works when you're playing against a team from the bottom half of the table. We're going to sit and defend deep, and as long as you can stop the counter attack, then you're kind of going to, I get the idea behind it, an extra man in the build up. But against a team like United, I mean, this is not a great United side by any stretch, to be honest. They've not pulled up any trees for me this season so far either. But I like to think we'll revert to Ben White at right back. I want to see Nketiah up top. I think Jesus, with another week of training with him, might be able to do something off the bench. I think Zinchenko now, I think we have to start. I think he's come off the bench at Selhurst Park. I think he looked pretty useful the other day. Although you could put my nan out there against Anthony, I'm sure she'd have a field day against that guy. But
I'm not going to properly give it to you.
I think this is maybe I should change my predictions to Anthony with a hat trick, but he is one of the worst signings for that kind of money I've ever seen. Probably the worst. Well, I think like 90 million or whatever he cost.
90 million, wasn't he?
Oh my God, the guy is absolute toilet. Like, every now and then he wraps one into the far corner. Like, okay, there's a little bit of talent there.
Yeah, but he just reminds me of like a five-a-side footballer that's showboating a bit, and it's like a lot of people can do the odd little thing, but consistency is the key, and he just doesn't have it.
It's almost a bit like Nicola Pepe, isn't it? Is it like every now and then he shows?
Do you know what I heard
on his left foot?
Do you know I heard a stat on one of the radio shows? I think it was Talk Sport or something. And did you hear this? They said they called out Nicola. They called out Pepe's stats, and his stats are better than Sancho and Anthony's combined or something.
Yeah.
and yet Pepe is the biggest flop. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, I did hear that, but yeah, I mean, I'm quietly confident. I think Rashford's the danger man, isn't he?
Well,
for
Rashford,
me. Like,
and I think it's the key thing. Partey is the solution.
mm,
Having Partey play at right back, you end up then not having anybody in the middle to sort of take on Fernandes and sort of keep him in your pocket. If you put
yeah,
if you put Partey in the middle, that takes that out of the equation. Not completely, but
I mean,
it
they're not the most. Man United's midfield's not the most athletic of midfields, but they do have quality in there. They're big, big players in the middle of the park. So, Eriksen, Fernandes, and
Casemiro.
who's the other? Casemiro. That's right. So there's a bit of quality in there. But, again, I don't think the balance is right with those three in there for them. But again, Partey definitely should be in the middle there, taking on those guys, and then I'd be much more comfortable Ben White working on Rashford. I think Højlund's either not fit or not ready to start, so they're not really going to pose a huge threat up the middle. You would have thought, but you never know. They might play Rashford up the middle and Sancho on the left or something. I don't know, but
Rashford's really, in effect, he's not very good through the middle. He doesn't like it, so he prefers to be out on the left. So Ben White over there, and then you shuffle Saliba across as well, sort of right centre back. I think if they do that, then I'd be confident that we will get the win. But if he puts Partey at right back and he persists with this, and he's got Havertz and Odegaard, pushing on, and then Rice sort of in no man, it's just we're gonna get torn up. The space that Fulham created in that, just moving forward, United will tear us apart. I mean, as crap as they are, Fernandes can have a shot. You can pick a pass. We need to have men in the middle there, and I just don't think we can't persist. Surely not with what happened at Fulham.
Fingers crossed. It's gonna be a big game. It's a big game, but again, if we were to go into the international break with a win, we would look at it and go, yeah, crap result against Fulham, but 10 points out of 12 is not.
It's not terrible,
is it?
It's not terrible, but
it's just a shame that the draw would have been against a team like them. But
yeah,
I think at the end of the day, this is how weird football is. Sometimes I think I almost get the feeling that if we'd beaten Fulham, we might lose to Man United. I feel like at least this draw might actually make Arsenal sort of wake up a little bit and check themselves. So sometimes, as long as you don't make a habit of it, I think sometimes a little knock, as long as it's not, if we lost 3-0 or something, that would be massively damaging for the confidence, the mentality, and the whole lot. But a 2-all won't do that, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so, yeah, and obviously we don't want to see 2 points dropped, but we haven't lost the game. And if it gives us that wake-up call, because the game against Man United is a 6-pointer, isn't it? It's going to be two teams with designs on Champions League for next season as well. So, it's a chance to kind of make an early sort of impression against those guys. I think having them and Spurs at the Emirates, is not a bad thing. I just think we need to really tighten up at the back, and I think having round pegs in round holes, I think, will be a good first step for Arteta to take.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Anything else happening? Balogun's almost gone, isn't he? I think that's done, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think he's having a medical either today or tomorrow, I've heard. And then Tierney signed for Real Sociedad today on loan for the season. No obligation to buy, but they're paying his wages in full, and he's they're paying a loan fee as well. So, yeah, I did read a rumor. I don't know how. It's probably off some garbage website somewhere in the world, but Tomori we're linked with, but I don't know if we're gonna. There seems to be a confidence that if we are gonna go in the market, that we're gonna try and get a defensive player. But
depends on Gabriel, though, surely.
Yeah, but you might also say Timber's out and Tierney's gone. So I'm kind of looking at. I think we've got enough cover at centre half. To be honest, I'm more worried about I'm actually a bit kind of worried about the left back position now. I mean, I'm not that gutted to see Tierney go personally, because I think he does have his limitations. But I think if Zinchenko can't be relied upon to stay fit for any length of time, and then Tommy Yasu still doesn't have like a lot of games under his belt without some kind of knock. So there's a question mark there. I wouldn't mind us buying a left back or something, or getting a season long loan in or something like that. I still want cover for Saka or cover for in the centre forward position, but maybe we're just keeping our powder dry and we'll do something in the next summer when maybe there's maybe we'll do like the kind of thing we did for Declan Rice, but on a centre forward. So if that, I mean, at the end of the day, there's only limited money to throw around, but I wouldn't mind seeing a lone fullback come in, maybe with an option to buy or something.
Yeah, for me, if anything happens, it'll be centre back, depending on what Gabriel, maybe a fullback. I can't really see us doing anything up front attacking wise. I think Havertz needs to be the solution to quite a few different positions. Don't forget, Smith Rowe has not been given a chance yet as well, which I'm a bit disappointed about. Vieira's now stuck his head above the water. He might get a few more opportunities. So I think we're all right. I mean, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see, Wood Smith Rowe, because it was Arteta that made a real point of keeping him for this season, but he's just not getting a look in. So I do kind of wonder whether or not, should he go on loan even? Maybe, but then we'll probably get an injury the minute he goes on loan. But I do kind of think he's in a bit of a weird spot at the moment, Smith Rowe. He just doesn't look like he's going to get game time, but he's kind of almost been promised. I mean, Arteta alluded to the fact that we've got now, after the international break, we've got midweek games coming in, so there'll be more opportunities for players, which is true. But yeah, to see not a single minute from Smith Rowe in the last couple of games has been been kind of interesting. One to keep an eye on, I'd say.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's it, isn't it? I think we're good. We're wrapped for this one. So all that remains is to say thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you on the other side on the next pod. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
See you guys. Have a good week all. Bye.